sound like absolute ass if I do this?
Yes.
Yes.
Welcome, everyone, to Film Lover's Guide to the Galaxy. Don't forget to bring your towel.
And just like that, Joe has brought us in. We're very excited to come back to you guys. And, today we're going to talk about our top 5 R-rated comedies that we're going to rank. So we're going to do it a little bit differently. So we're going to create 2 lists. There's one list that we've already made that follows our usual guidelines of box office champion, field of excellence. Did we get this wrong? And let's agree to 2. But what we've done is we're going to bring in our own top 10, and then we're going to whittle away, and then we're going to collectively agree to top 5. Before we start all that, let me just catch up with some of the co-hosts here. How are we doing today, Joe?
Man, I am tired. It's been a long work week. I've got a million things to do, but I think this is a great little thing to look forward to every time on Thursdays. I very much enjoy kind of racking my brain, and I think it's a great topic today. I think this is one of my favorite quote unquote genres. I don't know, I wouldn't say R rated, but again, the movies I looked at, huge fan. And I'm not very big on like rewatching a bunch of movies all the time, but everything on this list I could totally watch a couple times and I'd be very, very happy. But that's my week. Yeah, it's not too bad, but it's gonna be Friday tomorrow.
Jared, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. We've had been a kind of a long week at the school. I work in a classroom at a high school. Kids are pretty good this week, but it you get towards the end of the week. We're recording on Thursdays, and it's just it's man the goalposts are in the area or in sight. Did you guys watch any movies this week? I rewatched Minari again, and man, super good. I love that movie.
I've been really trying to rewatch Parks and Rec, so it's not a
Okay.
movie.
Yeah, no, that
I don't know. I really like it. I unfortunately stopped watching The Office.
I
So
okay, so I texted my brother today. I don't know if I like The Office anymore. Like when you go so you have The Office and then you have The Good Place, Parks and Rec, then The Good Place. Like I would much rather rewatch Parks and Rec and The Good Place. I don't know, maybe that's just me.
no, I mean I'm with you. I think is I've watched Office so many times. It's more
Totally.
the fact that I didn't like. I don't think it's necessarily bad. I think I just like kind of played out.
Yeah, I
But
could see that. And also it's I don't know, to me The Office is way more negative and kind of mean-spirited than those other two. Like
oh yeah, I can see that.
Parks and Rec, like you just turn it on and you just get the warm fuzzies inside. You got even if it's a more serious episode, you still have Leslie, you still have all those characters that are they're like your friends. And then like The Office, it's almost like did too good of a job and you're going to work.
Well, I mean, it's based
No,
on a dry
exactly.
comedy, right? Everyone's heard of the British Office, and I think they try to like kind of keep a part of that. So
Yeah, for sure.
it's always been like a very flat-faced comedy, and I think the people that do watch that understand that it's supposed to be flat-faced. Also, I rewatched Ted Lasso.
Oh yeah, I've been doing
He,
that too. Oh man,
I cannot wait for the next season. But yeah, that's what I get for a week.
you been watching anything, Johnny?
So on Sunday, I'm joining this podcast. I want you to watch this. They invited me for basketball. So I've been rewatching Hoop Dreams
Oh,
and also
nice.
loving basketball.
Whoa,
It's just
yeah.
these 2 movies they have me on since it's about basketball. I'm like, cool. I like talking about basketball
For sure.
movies. This is kind of be cool. So
Um,
did that as early as I can because when we're done with this, I'm starting that Justice League.
I was about to say you didn't
director's
stay
cut?
up. Didn't stay up till midnight to
Not
watch
yet.
the 4-hour
Oh,
and
God.
2-minute Justice League.
Look, beginning of this week in anticipation, I rewatched Man of Steel.
Oh my god!
This is the hill I will die on. That movie is so
Joe.
good. It's so good.
I've never understood why you're so wrong.
Yeah.
I cannot believe
This
how off
movie
base you are.
is so
Joe,
good.
I'm so glad it's not just me.
No,
Johnny's
man,
been
you guys,
on this hill since I've known him.
I will die on this hill with Man of Steel. I just absolutely love this movie. And it's one of those things where you don't understand, and I get why people just don't get it.
It's terrible.
but I love it. It's
I
absolutely great
I've
can't
movie.
never
wait
had.
till we do our DC pod,
Oh yeah.
and like
I've
it's
never
just
had
gonna be
this kind of difference in opinion ever. Because
it's gonna
usually
be a
Johnny's
cookout
like,
because I'm just gonna roast all these movies
yeah,
except for Wonder Woman and Aquaman.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna introduce our top 10 from descending order as we move our way up, and then from there we will collectively come up with what we feel is our top 5 R-rated comedies. Before we even start off with the top, we start naming our movies. If we had an 11th slot with no explanation, what movie barely missed your cut?
Great, great question. You can
I
go first, Joe.
actually had 11 and had difficulty cutting it. My 11th is Game Night.
Oh, that's a good one.
Mainly because it was advertised as like a horror, like you think it's like a horror thing or whatever. Complete. It just it. What I had to do is I had to pick like 15, 20 ish movies that I really liked. I ranked them as best I can. I started cutting off the ones like, is it better than this movie? Is it better than this movie? And when I got to Game Night, I'm like, man, it just misses the cut because the other ones on top of that are like good classics or just better. And I hate to say it, but yeah.
Yeah. So how did you guys? Okay. Well, I'll go next, and then I have a question after
Yeah.
this. My number 11, I think. Let me look. I'm looking at my list right now. My number 11 was Deadpool.
Oh.
Yeah. I put it in there because man, that it was so good and I never thought they could pull it off, but they did. But when I was putting my list together, I I just it kept going lower and lower and lower and I'm like, "Oh
Ah.
man."
I felt the same way, dude. That's what happens. It is what it is.
Yeah. What about you, Johnny?
Mine's actually Booksmart.
Okay.
It's one of the newer ones.
Oh
That movie's
yeah.
really funny. It's just the 10 in front of it, I just feel like I'm not gonna pass up.
Oh my god, we're gonna
So
have such different movie lists. It's gonna be
I
It's
know
good.
unreal.
it's gonna be good.
I've been looking forward to this all week.
Let's start off with you, Jared. Give us your number 10 and number 9 that you have on your list.
Okay, so Joe or John, actually Johnny was just talking about like horror comedy and that kind of stuff, and this is possibly my favorite horror comedy. Now, I
Oh,
originally was going to put Cabin in the Woods on this list,
that's such a good movie, dude.
but it's not. It's so funny, but it's not. I would say a traditional comedy. It's
Oh,
doing
absolutely
a
not.
very specific thing, but it's so funny. But my number 10 is a movie I can rewatch over and over, and it's so funny every time you pick up new things. And it's called Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Oh man, that is a fantastic pick.
It is. I mean, it won't.
The kids just kept killing themselves.
Yeah, and it's so funny. It takes all of the horror. I love horror movies. We're eventually going to do a horror pod, and I
Yeah.
can't wait. Tucker and Dale versus Evil takes the the slasher kind of cabin in the woods formula and really flips it on his head. And it's so funny when all of the stuff starts going down. I highly recommend it. I will be talking about it on our horror pod whenever that
Yep.
happens. And
It was a
man,
very fresh take, I
it
think.
was so good. And
Yep.
it's like my favorite running gag is him opening beer and like pouring it on his wound as if that would
Oof.
like it's just so funny. Like I could just describe the plot and everything like that, but I don't want to ruin it. It's so funny. And kind of going like again, my number 9, I guess you could say it's horror, but it's more like mockumentary and is What We Do in the Shadows.
Huh, I
And
haven't seen that.
it's directed by Taika. I think it's Taika. Yeah, Taika Waititi.
Mhm.
And oh man, it's a documentary film crew that they film in Australia or New Zealand. I can't remember. They follow around a group of vampires, and it's a fake kind of like Spinal Tap, Christopher Guest fake mockumentary
Spinal Tap, fantastic.
about these vampires, and it's so funny. It's like they have this like standoff with these. and they're all just dorks. It's in that like really lovable goofball way. The TV show is my favorite TV show on right now. Highly recommend What We Do in the Shadows. Number
Oh,
9 pick.
oh my God, we're such different people. I guess that's a good thing, eh?
Oh yeah.
Right. Joe, give me your 10 and 9.
Oh, brother. Okay, so this is because man, so Jared has such passion in his voice and so such all this stuff. Mine is just like I like this. My number 10 is American Pie.
Ooh.
I think it made the cut because I guess millennials at least like it's a classic. It's almost a cult classic. And I'm really talking about the first one. And I think that almost everyone I know has watched it or has at least heard of it. I think it really pushed the boundaries of what's appropriate, and it made me laugh. I mean, bottom line is these things have to make me laugh, if
Oh
at
yeah.
some point. Um,
I would hope so.
yeah, and then my next one is number 9 is Old School.
Oh,
Um, yeah, I
so good.
it was it's such like slapstick comedy for a lot of these things sometimes, and I think that um what they do is kind of out there. But again, for me, it's rewatchability and how funny it is.
That
And for
was
those of these
wasn't that the one that kind of kicked everything off in
for
that it what was it
in
like
that
oh
genre-ish
one,
thing,
oh one
yeah,
or oh 02 or something
for
like that.
sure, for sure.
And and then like that was kind of like the base, and then it just went into overdrive. You had you had Wedding Crashers and that like that
Bingo.
whole crew. Oh man,
Exactly. I
good
very much like
choice.
that crew, and I think you know I think Will Ferrell does an excellent job on all of these things, and just the cast is very good, and all that crazy shit they do is very interesting, and I found it very entertaining. So that's my number 9.
At number 10, I have 2016's The Edge of 17. It stars Haley Steinfeld. It's like a coming of age where Haley Steinfeld, I remember watching her first from like True Grit, if you guys remember the
Oh yeah,
remake with the
yeah,
Coen
yeah, yeah.
brothers.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, she was the best thing. And here she kind of takes on her own. Basically, she's trying to grow up in this little world. Her interplay with Woody Harrelson to me has always been really funny. It's a James L. Brooks production, which I thought it was actually pretty hilarious because I'm all like, no wonder it has very Simpsons vibes when I
James
was
L.
watching
Brooks
it.
is I feel super underrated.
He
I mean,
is.
he's I would say he's good, like he's rated, but like to a lot of like younger people of our generation, were like the Simpsons guy, like what?
Yeah. And so, that to me makes it over the list when we were talking about where 10 and 11 was. It just edged out Booksmart for me. And they kind of have similar styles in comedy. I just thought this one was funnier. Number 9 is Team America. like
Oh
What?
wow, that
That
is a
came out of
movie I
left
have
field.
not thought
What
of
the?
in
I
years.
absolutely love Team America,
Wow,
and having it so low is just when I was looking through this list and I was rewatching clips on YouTube, I just forgot how well written the comedy is, and them doing the marionettes with it was just so good, and you know. It's funny because they were making fun of Hollywood, and I love the fact that Hollywood, at least George Clooney and Matt Damon, didn't take themselves so seriously when this movie came out, made it even more enjoyable. So right now at number 9, I have Team America.
Yo, I'm not gonna lie, Johnny. I thought you would have these nice, like, professional picks that
wow,
have like all this stuff, and it's like Team America.
that blew my mind just now.
It's like what the
Team
shit?
America, damn,
It's so funny. So
Hey, man, you like what you like.
yeah.
we'll boomerang back here. So Joe, give me your number 8 and number 7 movies.
So, interestingly, my number 8 movie is an older movie, but even more interestingly enough than that, I've only recently watched it. Recently, being in the last 5 years, it is Office Space. I think that I've heard about the movie for a very long time. I thought that I was like, oh, it's Office Space, Jennifer Aniston's in it, blah 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 blah. But and then, it's a cult classic and things like that. So never got around watching it, but when I did, oh man, like it's just I don't know, it's a very very like kind of like almost like a mellow movie, and I really like the whole idea behind it. I like the way it ended. But then like also one of my stupid criteria for these movies is if it's very quotable.
Oh
Like
yeah,
two
I
chicks at
have
the
this
same
whole
time.
thing later about movies being quotable
Yeah.
that I'll go into, but that's you are spot on about
Yeah.
that.
So I mean, if it's quotable this many years out to the point where it had such an impact like that, and especially for me, excellent movie. So Office Space is there. My number 7 is there because I think that I want to almost say it's first of its kind. It's Borat. Um,
Oh yeah.
I I understand that technically technically it's not meant to be if you look at it super serious as if it was from Kazakhstan, it's supposed to be like a mockumentary. But it's Sacha Baron Cohen and he's fucking with everyone. I have not seen the second one, and I want to. Um,
Hmm.
it's just that it's so cringy in a good way, where you're like, oh man, he's gonna do some crazy ass shit. These people are gonna think this dude's completely serious, and it blew my mind. And I think that just because it was such like almost like realistic comedy where you're fucking with other people, it brings me to number 7. So
Yeah.
loved it. I didn't necessarily laugh throughout the whole movie because I was cringing a little bit because it was like secondhand embarrassment. But other than that, excellent movie.
Nice.
Good choice.
So I'll continue this at number 8. I have this kind of romantic comedy, so it's Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Nice.
I
Hmm.
absolutely love the comedy within this movie. Um,
I that's yeah.
yeah, and it's funny because the stuff I remember is just more like there's a lot of bits along the way, but the music of that movie is so good when he was like creating the whole vampire musical thing. I absolutely love it, right? And this is Russell Brand's best movie to date because after
Uh,
this, he hasn't done anything really
I was
good.
about to
Did you
say
guys?
he's
If you
not.
guys get him to the Greek, I'm gonna throw it back at you because that movie is not funny.
Do you
But
remember how I said movies have to be quotable? The only
yeah,
thing I remember from this movie is Jason Segel's penis.
funny enough.
That's quotable. I
It's
don't
funny enough.
I don't see what's
I don't see it.
Burned into my mind.
Number 7. I know this is a little bit oddball, but I'm a big action guy. I love Shane Black. This is one of the last few times Robert Downey Jr. actually got to do something a little bit risky. It's Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
oh, that's
Oh,
a
Absolutely love
pull.
him and Val Kilmer together are hilarious. I mean, just first of all, Val Kilmer, it sucks that, he kind of like has that throat cancer thing,
well,
so he
yeah,
Yeah.
can't
that's
really talk,
is
right?
really unfortunate.
But this last time, I mean, he's just so funny playing this gay detective, showing Robert Downey Jr. kind of like the ropes as he's going through. And to me, the most hilarious part of that movie is when they're trying to interrogate them. And I don't know if you guys seen this movie. If
I
not,
have, I
spoilers.
have.
Then yeah. So he Robert Downey Jr. is getting his balls electrocuted, and Val Kilmer is trying to get him to like look at his like uh, balls to get him to tease because he was like messing around with him being gay, and then just shot him up. It's just hilarious. Shane Black is very to me is like he's very overlooked sometimes, but this movie kind of shows a lot of his work. So that's what I have at number 7. All right, Jared, what do you have at 8 and 7?
My number 8 is a movie I watched just last weekend. I saw it was on Amazon streaming, and it's the seminal coming of age tale, Dazed and Confused. I
Oh,
absolutely love Dazed and Confused. It is like one of just a movie I can put on at any time. It'll cheer me up. It is super funny. It reminds me of when I was a freshman in high school, kind of going in and like what you went through, like you see it and yeah, like it's just one of it's a movie that is endlessly rewatchable for me. I think that just puts it up kind of higher
yep.
than the other two on there. And the soundtrack is a banger. Like, yeah, like classic rock, but whatever. Like it is so good. And then number
Good choice.
7, I guess you could view it as a coming of age tale,
Uh
but
oh.
it's also just insane. It's Wet Hot American Summer.
What?
Have you
Wow.
have you
Yeah, I have.
guys?
I watched it.
Oh my god, it's. I remember seeing that movie for the first time when I was younger,
It was
and
all over the place. It's been such a long time.
the remake is, or the not the remake, the sequel series on Netflix is fantastic.
Interesting.
The everything. I remember seeing it when I was younger and telling everybody, "You have to watch this movie. You have to watch this movie." I saw it when I first discovered it. I was probably a freshman in high school. I wait, what? Yeah, like I just I it's so weird and it's so funny and it's just yeah, like okay, yeah, it came out the summer of my freshman year of high school, of our freshman year of high school,
Mm-hmm.
and it blew my mind because I didn't know comedies could be crazy like that. The State is in it. That was the comedy troupe from MTV and everything, and it's just insane. Paul Rudd, also Vampire Paul Rudd does not age. He's in it, and he looks
Exactly. Yeah.
exactly the same.
That dude really doesn't age. It blows my mind. I gotta get his skincare routine.
Right? Right?
Right. All right. So as we're moving up here, now we're going into our 6th and 5th spots. Joe, tell me what your 6 and 5 are.
Um, 6 might be. It's an interesting movie because I still don't understand why they made it. Like I'm trying to
Ooh,
figure out like what went through their head when they made it. I'm like, oh wow, this is actually pretty good. It's it's super bad.
okay.
Um, it was like when it came out, it was just like it's almost like if teenage boys thought that this was a good movie to put a bunch of shit together
Well, that
about.
was kind of the thing. It was it'd been worked on forever with Seth Rogen and his writing partner, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
Evan
yeah,
Yeah,
Goldberg,
yeah.
yeah.
Evan Goldberg. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it was just like whoa, like I didn't expect it, but I mean the comedy was really good. I like all the joke writing is clearly has a certain like feel to it, and I think that it felt complete at least, and I don't know, I just really liked it.
Yeah.
Number 5, it's the only one where it's a trilogy, and I'm only talking about the first movie. It's The Hangover.
Hmm.
I like the idea, and I not only is it funny, but I like the idea of the whole I forgot what happened. Let me work backwards to piece it together kind of thing. The reason that's mainly the reason I liked it. I think um, when you look at movies like that, I don't think there's for a lot of comedies they're kind of formulaic and things like that. But this one had a fresh take. Now, unfortunately, they had to make like 8 more because it did so well, and I liked them. But the
Yeah,
first
they were
one,
fine.
yeah, it's like I'll watch. Thing is, but the problem with those is like I'll watch them because I like the first one. I'll watch
Yeah.
the second because I like the first one. I'll watch the third one because I like the second one, etc., etc. So, but no, great movies. I can watch them anytime, and it'll still give me a kind of a good, nice little belly laugh. So that's my pick for five and 6 and 5.
Good call.
At number 6, I was wrestling between these two the whole time to get who gets into the top 5. At number 6, I have Knocked Up. I
Ooh,
love
Okay.
this
nice.
movie. This
Yeah.
is kind of an introduction to Judd Apatow and the way he thinks, right? We get how big Jonah Hill kind of gets after this as well. Just being a solidified star. I just love not only that their storyline works really well, but Paul Rudd, as we were talking about, and God, I know what his name
My
is.
whole
Yeah,
list, I felt my whole list could have been populated by Judd Apatow movies. So
one
Apatow.
I,
hundred
Yeah,
percent.
I really had to put a cap on that. I left it to like one or two.
yeah,
And I just,
It's your list, man. You
yeah,
do what you want.
right. And so yeah, I just and the whole. I mean, I love Back to the Future. So whenever they give a nod to that movie, as they were high off their minds talking about it, right? I absolutely thought this movie was good, but I didn't think it trumped number 5. Where this is where me and Joe agree. I have Hangover at number 5. That
Wow,
movie, that movie
yeah.
is
whoa,
that movie's hilarious. Like, uh, up until this point, I didn't think. Well, let's take it back. I At this point, when I was looking at those 3 guys as the stars of the movie, I only knew Bradley Cooper from Alias. I knew
Huh.
yeah,
nothing about Ed Helms, and who the hell is Zach Galifianakis? But
Oh my
it
god.
just works really well between the three of them together. Mike Tyson with his cameo makes it even funnier as well. We also get what's his name? What's the Asian doctor's name?
Oh shoot.
Ken Jeong,
Ken Jung.
Ken
Dr.
Ken Jung.
Ken.
Jeong. We get introduced to him as well within this movie.
We wouldn't have the
Yes,
Masked
the
Singer without him.
Right.
Without this movie.
Movie. I just Joe is right. The sequels after, because Hangover 2 is just a repeat of the first Hangover, so
Yeah,
it wasn't
it's
funny.
fine. You know,
Hangover 3 is just not good.
I
So
don't think I saw it. The Hangover reminds me. I was working at a video store at the time, and it was everybody coming. Do you have the Hangover? Do you have the Hangover? No. Okay, here's the list. Here, I will call you when. I worked there for a couple months over winter break because I needed a job, and a friend's mom had a video store, and everybody just, do you have the Hangover? Do you have the Hangover?
right.
And I got in trouble for taking it home one night and watching it.
I mean, you work there, got to get some perks, right?
I know, right? That's what I'm saying.
All right, Jared, who do you have at 6 and 5?
My number 6 is out of the Cornetto trilogy of movies. It was very hard for me to pick one of the 3 movies. All 3 of them could have easily been up here, but I love zombie movies and I love action movies. So it could have gone either way, but my love for action movies won out, and Hot Fuzz is on here.
Ooh, I was about to put Hot Fuzz in top 10 somewhere.
I think it's a better movie because they're more mature, like filmmakers, they're writers, what have you. Everything I love about action movies is in this. And I like how it starts as kind of like a critique on that. And then it just turns into a crazy action movie. It is so funny. Every time I still, like, you know, Joe, we were talking about quotes earlier. I still pull quotes from this and like into my everyday dialogue.
Oh
It
yeah,
is
it's great.
so good, and Nick Frost is hilarious. I just love this movie and everything it did.
Spoiler alert, you have it too low, Jared.
Oh
Tell
yeah,
you right now.
okay,
I
sure.
mean, Simon Pegg's it's great. I'm a big fan of Simon Pegg.
And isn't it crazy that he's in all like the Mission Impossible movies now? So like he
got picked up, baby. You know what you got to do what you got to do.
He's on that Tom Cruise level now, kind of.
Oh boy, I don't know about that. It's been an interesting time for everyone else there.
And number 5, I really struggle with this one. I'm ready for the flack of it being way too low. But number 5 for me is Anchorman.
Wow, I forgot about Anchorman.
Anchorman, I think, it exemplifies that quoting nature that kind of guys have. Like our generation of guys, of males and females too, like they everybody of our generation, I'll say, they have this language when it comes to movies that I feel Gen Xers, boomers, and not even real Gen Zers have, because I work at a high school now. They don't have that quoting nature to it. It's like boom, 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 like, oh, that escalated quickly. If I say unique New York, immediately it comes into your head Ron Burgundy.
Yep.
The Human Torch was denied a bank loan. Like immediately you think of this movie, and it's to enter the kind of the culture like that. It was huge, and they filmed so much of the movie. They had enough to make a second movie of the things they cut out of it. Just hilarious. Like a whole water polo season went by when I played in college where we were just quoting it every single day, and I loved that movie so much.
King.
Absolutely,
King.
I think that was his peak.
Ooh, interesting.
As a well,
I mean, it could be. I
don't know, because I have another
lot of stuff.
I have another Will Ferrell movie higher on my list, but I think that's because of he plays well off of other people.
Oh, okay.
So now we enter the top 4, and so things are going to get a little dicey. So we'll go from 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll go one at a time. So Joe, who do you have at number 4?
So we're doing one at a time. My number 4 is the first time I've had. It's a pretty unique cast. So that's the reason I picked it. It's Bridesmaids.
Way
And
too low.
I thought that in terms of comedy, I think that they I never thought that crew would work. Just on paper, just me and my own prejudices and knowing nothing. And obviously I was wrong. I think that what they did was amazing. I think whoever was in charge of trying to like write it all together and have this whole crew work together, they made it work, and I'm so glad they did because this movie was amazing. I think I was laughing for the whole movie, especially when they're shitting them. Actually, spoilers. They're shitting themselves. Like, come on, man! Like it was insane, and I had a great time watching it. I think everyone will too. Number four, Bridesmaids. Jared could be right about being a little too low. We'll find out.
At my number 4 was another movie Joe mentioned that was a little bit lower as well. It's Super
Ooh,
Bad. I
Okay.
I
yeah.
absolutely love this movie. It's just the two the buddy comedies are really what gets me a lot
Mm-hmm.
in terms of these. If people can
Jonah
play
Hill
off each
did
other
a
really well.
really good job in that movie.
Jonah Hill, Michael Cera. This type of Michael Cera works for me. I'm okay with this type of Michael Cera, where it fits within the natural movie. We got McLovin in this movie as well, which
Yeah.
Never
is
forget about McLovin.
hilarious. The world introduced me to who Emma Stone was when I
Ooh,
first saw this movie as well. Made me forget about Lindsay Lohan, thank God. So
Wow.
I absolutely
Hot
thought it was
takes.
great. So what
yeah.
about you, Jared? What do you have at number 4?
Number four is a movie you mentioned earlier, and number four is Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Oh,
Um,
fantastic.
I think this movie, out of all of them, has that kind of main crew of them has aged the best. It really has. Super Bad, you can go back and look, and it's like, ooh, like kind of, it gets a little dicey with some of the stuff. I re- I really think that Forgetting Sarah Marshall has aged the best. Kristen Bell and Mila Kunis are reinventing themselves in this movie as movie stars.
There's still,
One
yeah,
one coming
100%.
off of that '70s show. You can see kind of seeds of Shellstrop from The Good Place in Kristen Bell and Sarah Marshall. And here's the thing you guys didn't mention earlier: you get early Bill Hader. This is first rookie contract Bill Hader on this. Like,
Was this before SNL or
no,
after
this is
SNL?
like his first kind of beginning,
His first
like
getting
Oh,
into movies.
getting
oh
into
my
movies.
God. Yeah,
This
yeah, it's
is like
fantastic.
this is like Luca era Bill Hader right here, where he's a heavy hitter. You're watch every scene, you're watching him, and you're like, who is this guy? You know, like,
He's
and
so unique about everything too. It's fantastic.
he's amazing. And
Yeah.
I will go to the death and say the Dracula musical is the best in
So
movie
good.
media created in that universe ever. I will go watch a Dracula musical. If anyone wants to put it together, I will fund your Dracula musical with the meager educational salary I have.
Yeah, that musical
Unreal.
is great. It is so good. So let's boomerang back. We're at number 3. So Jared, give me your number 3.
Number three is, I think, the pinnacle of just. I watched it. I was going, what the fuck is this? And it being the funniest thing ever. Number three is Step Brothers for me. I remember watching it for the first time and absolutely losing my mind. It has this crazy, frenetic energy to it where every scene you're like, whoa, this, like, you're waiting for the scene to just devolve into chaos. You know,
Hmm.
every scene is hilarious and you're just waiting to see what happens. Okay, tell me the plot of Step Brothers. There really isn't one.
Catalina
It's
wine mixer.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing. There's an actual Catalina wine mixer now because of
Yeah.
that movie. I love Step Brothers, and it falls into another movie that's just endlessly quotable with my brother and I, with everybody. I mean, you got Adam Scott being the biggest douchebag in that movie. Yeah, you have Will Ferrell. Think about The murderer's row of people in that movie. Catherine Hahn,
I
amazing.
love Catherine
Adam
Hahn.
Scott, amazing. That car ride where
John
they're
C. Riley,
singing. Yeah.
and they're singing. Yeah, dude.
John C. Riley was not a comedic actor when he got into the biz. and and which is crazy because when you watch Boogie Nights, he's one of the
He.
funniest people ever.
Yep. 100%.
You have uh, you have Mary Steenburgen, hilarious. You all of these people are unreal funny, and it I think it's Will Ferrell. Anchorman was his solo peak. I think as an ensemble, Will Ferrell playing off of everybody else in the movie, I think this is his peak for that.
I'm with you.
What do you have at number 3, Joe?
You're not gonna like it, dude.
Oh.
It's Step Brothers.
Oh.
Dude, no, it's I didn't want to say anything while you were talking the whole time. No, I'm with you the whole way. The best part of Step Brothers for me is watching the outtakes. I cry a little bit because of how hard I
Yeah.
laugh. It's just the fact that I think obviously with a lot of these films, they let them kind of ad lib so much of it and take like 40 takes. They'll just take the best 3 and roll with it. It is amazing. I love it. I don't know, like when I first heard about it, I was like, it's gonna be all right. I kind of I mean, I like Will Ferrell, so I watched it. Fantastic, 10 out of 10. That's my number 3. I'm sorry to make it boring, but it's the first time I'm at my top 3 movies right now. This is the first time someone's called it before I did, by the way. So all I'm saying.
Nice.
Hot take. I don't care for this movie.
Uh-oh.
I get.
Whoa.
I don't actually. I really don't get it. I just don't. First of all, Talladega Nights is the superior one between both him and John C. Riley.
That's
Than that
absolutely
Well,
insane to me.
Yeah, but it's still people fucking with other people. That's really what it is.
It's just I understand where people are coming from, and I gave this movie another shot like a couple of years ago. I just don't think it's funny.
So Talladega Nights is just Step Brothers, but with a plot, in my mind.
With cars.
And so like when I say when Joe and I talk about Step Brothers being over Anchorman, yeah, there was an ensemble there, but you were watching that movie for Ron Burgundy. You were watching it for Will Ferrell.
Right.
You did that with Step Brothers, and then you just got everybody else that was just absolutely came out a rocket star after that, of just being like, I had no idea that person was funny. And
that's what makes it even better, right? You never expected it, and
yeah,
they are, and they do such a good job.
Johnny, maybe I'm gonna have to give Talladega Nights another shot because you're ringing its praises, but
this guy still likes Man of Steel, though.
Yeah. So
just what the fuck?
Shots fired.
Man of Steel is great. So number 3 for me, Jared had a little too low. It is Hot Fuzz.
Okay.
I love action comedy.
It's great.
It is the best out of the 3 in the corner, and it barely beats out to me World's End. I love
World's End was
great. Shaun of the Dead is great, but if you're asking how I rank genres, action is 1, sci-fi is 2,
totally
horror is 3. So
I
that's
get
the only reason why the ranking is. But it is a very underrated trilogy. But I think the middle, which is Hot Fuzz, is just encapsulated, and especially if you haven't seen the action. There's a couple of action films because at that point I haven't seen Point Break, right? So I haven't seen Point Break before I watch Hot Fuzz, and then I watch Point Break and I watch Hot Fuzz again. It just made it 10 times better. So action aficionados, they rewatch the movie and they just pay such reverence to it, right? Timothy Dalton is also incredible in this movie. I love him here.
I love the trilogy. It's fantastic.
So to me,
you can tell that they have a love for that genre.
Correct. Yeah. And so, that's what I have at number 3.
Good call.
I'll kick off number 2. Whether this is a little too low or not, who knows? It's Bridesmaids.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is absolutely hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Like Joe said before, it's just this ensemble cast just works so well on so many different levels. Kristen Wiig, once she made this movie, I really did not want her to go back to SNL. Like, this is kind of one of, and she did for the next several years as she's picking up movies, but she showed that she can kind of lead. We got Melissa McCarthy, for better or worse, because she's very hit or miss with a lot of her movies.
This was a hit for sure,
but she was great, and it's always a great sight to see Maya Rudolph But Paul Feig, the director of the movie, he knows how to do ensembles really well, and this is just a showcase in that. So at number 2, I have Bridesmaids. Jared, who do you have at number 2?
My top two really battled it out. I had them going back and forth all day, all day, and I put number two as The Big Lebowski. Um,
Ooh.
it is my, and it's another one of those endlessly quotable movies. It's, you get every, you just get everything in it. The plot again is secondary to what is happening. I love noir movies. My girlfriend the other day was like, "Hey, maybe I should watch that. I haven't really seen it." And I go, "I don't think I should watch it with you for your first time." She goes, "Why?"
Oh.
I go, "Well, because it's I don't want to ruin it for you by laughing at things that you don't really catch on your first time through. And two, you're gonna be like, I don't want to tell you how to enjoy a movie. I hate when people are like, no, 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 you got to do like when you watch that movie for the first time, you're trying to figure out the mystery to it. You're like, wait, who, what, like what, like Jackie Treehorn, what? But the magic of that movie is when you watch it again and again and again, and it picks up so much life, you know, for me, and these characters in the city of LA being a character of itself, and you really develop these like crazy theories of what is really going on. Gosh, it's just wonderful. It's in my top 5 favorite Coen Brothers movies, number 1 being A Serious Man.
Very underrated. I
Yeah.
wouldn't put it number 1, but I had to give that movie a second shot for me to really understand
Yeah.
what was happening. And once I got the religious part, I'm like, I get it.
Yeah, and I sidebar for A Serious Man, I just loved the despite how how funny everything is, we're fucked. That's the message of that movie, and
Correct. Yeah.
I loved it. But yeah, Big Lebowski. I mean, it's crazy they made that as the follow up to Fargo. Fargo was a multi award winning movie, and then they put this out like this stoner
Took
kind
you the
of
vibes,
noir
man.
movie. Like Jeff Bridges has never been seen like that before. John Goodman had never been seen like that before. It is endlessly rewatchable, and I'm now thinking like, God, was it a mistake? But no, it's my number 2.
All right, Joe, who do you have at number 2?
My number 2 was I'm thinking about it. Yeah, yeah. Because I was flip flopping. So my number 2 is Wedding Crashers.
Okay, yeah. I was waiting to see if anybody would put it on here.
I I really liked. I mean, it's an interesting concept, and I think that I think the fact that Owen Wilson, Vince Vaughn, I think they make for a good duo. I think the concept was pretty funny. I think that it has a bit of a serious part. It has a pretty fucked up part, and it has kind of like an interesting end, and it's like a buddy movie, and I really liked it. I like the way it made me laugh. I like the way it made me
Hmm.
think. I like the way I like the whole story behind it. So Wedding Crashers are my number 2, and I necessarily not necessarily have a specific reason, but just kind of a multitude of good reasons why I like it.
That was I think Bradley Cooper's like, whoa, who is this guy? For me at least, I
I
didn't watch.
I think you're absolutely correct because in this movie he was kind of like a fatter dude, like he was like some jacked, like A-list celebrity kind of guy, and I think this might be the first time I've seen him on the big screen as one of the main
He
characters,
he plays a fantastic prick
like
in this
heel.
movie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the whole
Yeah,
point,
a
right?
heel. Like he is such a good heel in this movie. It's so funny.
Yeah. So it's probably likely also one of my first times seeing him on the screen. I think, but again, Bradley Cooper, big fan overall of all of his work. But that's my number 2 for Wedding Crashers.
So we're gonna wrap up. We're all at our number 1 now.
Yep.
So Joe,
Yes.
what is your top all time R-rated comedy?
I'm very happy that this movie wasn't said before, and maybe because I have unique taste. But my number 1 favorite movie, 40-year-old version. I thought that.
Okay, the one that kicked it all off.
I think it was such a weird. like idea, and I think that whole crew melded really together. I think it's like like I never expected, because it's a little bit PC nowadays, but it's like, do I know how to know you're gay, blah blah blah, and all that kind of stuff. Like that wouldn't, I don't know if that will fly necessarily today, but I think that it was so funny, so hilarious. I think I'm a big fan of Steve Carell. I think I was always worried that if Steve Carell went into movies and he picked some bad movies, or comedies that kind of flopped a little bit. I don't know, the case may be, but huge fan of 40-year-old version. Always makes me laugh. Um, and I keep on forgetting that Kevin Hart is in this movie.
Right?
It's just like,
That
because
little cameo.
yeah, I gotta say though, like I kind of forget when this was get out, because like I just don't remember if he was a big star at the time, but it was great, because if anything, like they made it sound like he was like the kind of like just a side guy that they kind of tossed in, but obviously he's a huge name now, but awesome. But that's my number one, 40-year-old version.
For me, at number one, I love comedies
Mm-hmm.
about Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
I love it when they're kind of almost spoofs, more or less. There's a bunch of big name actors in this movie. It's Tropic Thunder, guys.
Wow.
Ooh, nice.
This is a movie that, as of right now, cannot get made at this time of
No.
age.
I am a
No.
black man playing as a black man.
But Robert Downey Jr., like I said, like we were talking about Kisses Bang Bang, this came out a couple years after, or actually, no, this came out the same year that Iron Man came out. This literally was the last year that Robert Downey Jr. actually did anything that was remotely not safe, right? Because if you think about his filmography outside of playing Iron Man, he was in one that's called The Judge,
Mm-hmm.
Doolittle. Like
The
this isn't.
judge was like, "Wait, really?"
Yeah, like to me, like, yeah, and it's fine because he's just cruising now with being Tony Stark, which is what he should be doing. But he was so damn good in this movie. Just when we talk about method actors, and we know that Daniel Day Lewis is
Is the
probably
king,
one of the
the
biggest
king.
ones, right?
Yeah.
This is kind of when keeping it real goes wrong. And, to me, that was such a big symbolism to that. Ben Stiller, the last movie he directed before this was Permanent Midnight, which I was like, whatever. And the fact that he can be the lead and also direct. Last week's episode, we were talking about Nutty Professor, and like I was saying, the clumps. This is kind of what Jack Black's characters like. That was kind of making fun of, and that reminds me a lot of it. We got early Bill Hader, like what Jared was talking about, that was in there. Matthew McConaughey was great as a sports agent in there. And Tom
Oh
Cruise
God,
pretty much revived his career with this movie,
yeah.
because up until that point,
So
he was the
weird.
guy jumping around on the couch. Everybody completely forgot about him, but he shows up as Les Grossman for 3 minutes, kills it,
I forgot.
absolutely kills it.
I forgot Matthew. I sorry to interrupt. Matthew McConaughey, iconic in that. It's just so funny.
You want the TiVo? It's so good. I just, when we were talking about this, as we were thinking about what to do this week, when we said R-rated comedies, like I was saying, that was one. Everyone else was playing for number 2 spot. I absolutely love this movie. This is my number 1.
Yeah, I could totally see it.
All right, Jared.
Like you, my number 1 was pretty much, well, 1 and 2 were kind of battling it out, but these 2 were in my mind since we decided on this category. It was already mentioned before, but Bridesmaids.
Ooh, nice.
It really is, I think, a game changer for comedies. I think Kristen Wiig was. I don't like her on SNL. I think her character work on SNL is fine. I think she's funny. I think all that. But when you put her in this movie with these other women and they are playing off each other, it was magic. You saw it was a hit. Like I don't think I belly laughed harder in a long time when since I rewatched this movie. Like,
It's pretty rare to belly laugh like that, in any movie, really.
oh my gosh, and it's got everything. It's got gross out. It's got this. It's got traditional comedy. It's got gross. It's so funny, and the fact that you are introduced to, Melissa McCarthy Johnny said for better or for worse, but I'm going to say that's a huge positive for a lot of people. This was her coming out. I like, there are scenes coming that are just rattling off in my mind right now that, you know, my friend did, toasted her sister at her wedding with the wedding toast scene. It was unbelievable. Like, I think it's the most important comedy that's come out in the last 10 or so years. I,
Interesting.
I think it is absolutely one of the best, the best comedy to come out in the last, you know, 10 years. I just, there's, it's so unique and I loved it. And yeah, it's my number one. Absolutely. With a bullet.
All right, so we're gonna do this a little bit differently. So we want to rank these movies from 1 through 5.
Oh, buddy.
So there's a couple numbers that I think, from how we're talking about, we can slot in. I think, what did you, Joe? You had Bridesmaids at number 4.
I did.
I
Yeah.
had it number 3. I mean number 2, and Jared had number 1. I think it's safe to say, from us talking about that movie, that's probably number 1. Would
Yeah.
anyone disagree with it
Sure.
being at the number 1 on the list?
But so, like, for people who are like, oh, I don't know, it wasn't that funny. But like, think about who is in that. Like, Rose Byrne. I had no idea she was that funny while watching that movie, or like before watching that movie. Melissa McCarthy, like, I knew her, she was a TV actress. Like, okay, hilarious. Same thing with Kristen Wiig. Like, Johnny, I was so bummed when she went back to SNL, and I was like, God, like, yeah, you do you, but I was waiting for that next one, and I hear Barb and Star is absolutely hilarious. I haven't seen it yet, but I hear it's very good, and yeah, like, this was just so good and so funny.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think when I'm thinking about the list and collectively compiling it, I think it makes sense to have Bridesmaids at number 1.
Mm-hmm.
I also, even though I vehemently disagree with both of you guys on how I feel about this, I do think Step Brothers should probably be number 2. I'm okay with doing this. I know I'm in the minority, like a very small minority, when it comes to this, and I'll probably try to give that movie another chance. But
Talladega Nights in the Mud.
So to me, that should be a number 2. I also think Hangover is probably at 5, a really good choice. Just saying how that is.
So yeah, that was a pretty big phenomenon.
Yeah. So that gives slots 3 and 4. Now, there's a couple movies that kind of overlap one another. There's Hot Fuzz.
Mm-hmm.
There's Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Is there any movie that you guys believe really should be within this list?
I think Superbad belongs in the list. But the thing is, with the other thing, like, for example, Hot Fuzz, Hot Fuzz is ranked pretty high for you guys. It's not on my list. I mean, that's going to be the case for anything like this, right? Because it's all personal preference. I don't know, anything that's kind of like,
I think Forgetting Sarah Marshall belongs on this list. I just think, while Superbad is rewatchable, I think Forgetting Sarah Marshall works better as a movie as well as a comedy. That's just me. I mean, I know that they started out writing a movie, like a traditional movie, and then they inserted the comedy to it, and I think that's why it works better for me, at least. But if you guys want to put Superbad on there, I wouldn't be opposed to it. That movie is very funny. I'm just thinking about the scene where they're at the party and they're singing These Eyes, and I'm trying not to laugh.
So this is funny because this is the 3 movies that we can only put 2 in.
Yeah.
To me, Hot Fuzz is non-negotiable. That movie needs to get in. I actually need to get in. I
absolutely agree.
Right. Because one, even though I have Tropic Thunder number 1, I need an action comedy that's actually in this list. And this is kind of where
I will take too perfect. It's that love letter to that genre.
Right. So really it comes down to Forgetting Sarah Marshall versus Superbad. So Joe, tell me why you might, like I said, you have it a little bit higher. Why do you think it should be in?
you're thinking why I should pick Superbad over Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Mhm.
I mean, it's really apple to oranges. I mean, Forgetting Sarah Marshall is a fantastic movie. I liked everything about it. I thought that it was a very good, like the storyline was very good, the comedy was very good. It's just a personal preference. I think Superbad has a lot of these, like it's very chaotic, right? And it was a lot of like like shit going wrong, or like they're trying a bunch of stuff, and like McLovin. I mean, it's just it's very quotable and all that kind of stuff, and that's just a personal preference. I think Forgetting Sarah Marshall is a very very polished film. I think it has a very solid direction, and it was definitely planned out. I think a lot better than Superbad. Almost in Superbad, I don't know. It's a cluster of jokes. It's a cluster of just random bullshit jokes, and I just like that. So that's the only reason. It's just chaotic for me, and it was all over the place, but it worked. So that's just my only opinion.
My counter to that is Dracula musical.
So, if I'm looking at the totality of this list, we have Bridesmaids, which is a very great ensemble film. Step Brothers is a very buddy. You guys will call it an ensemble film, but more people remember the brothers together than anything else, right? We have an action comedy in there. We have another bro film in there with Hangover. So for that reason, to try to get this list, at least in my taste, to get it
Mhm.
as well rounded as well, I think Forgetting Sarah Marshall should be the one that gets in. Just because
Sure.
if we think about Superbad as well compared to Hangover, I probably would watch Hangover again over Superbad. But that's just like I said, we all know this personal preference, but I think if we round this list out, this actually might be a pretty cool thing. That being said, what should be at 3 and then what should be at 4?
I think Hot
Well,
Fuzz is at 4. I
Hot Fuzzes
think
was at least on two of the lists. That by itself would put it a little bit higher, I think.
I'm just thinking of overall kind of feel. I would like it higher at 3. I'm totally fine with that. I just think in terms of starting or not starting, but like really kicking off the movie career of Kristen Bell, of Mila Kunis, of all of those things, and doing it did High Fidelity, the movie, way better than High Fidelity. You know what I
It
mean?
did. Yeah, I know what you
The
mean.
movie's about a breakup, and
Mhm.
it is the breakup movie in my mind, and I think it's God, just the Dracula musical every time. No, but like really, I just again, Paul Rudd, the ageless wonder, is in it. Hot Fuzz does what it does. I think for you to enjoy Hot Fuzz, you have to know those references, like Johnny, like what you said about not having seen Point Break at that time, and then you're seeing Point Break and you enjoyed Hot Fuzz more. I think when you raise the barrier of entry to something, I think that it's less accessible, of course. So I mean, everybody's been through heartache. Everyone's felt those feelings that Jason Segel did in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and we've all had the Bill Hader deleting all the pictures. No, like that kind of stuff. Like it's so relatable and so, heartfelt at the same time, and heartbreaking and all of that. Your ex-girlfriend meets somebody new and they're way cooler, quote unquote. It's just a more relatable movie. Hot Fuzz is just goofy fun
Mhm.
with like a conspiracy kind of thing. I love it. I might go watch it right now, but Forgetting Sarah Marshall, I think should be higher.
Okay.
Man, he
Do
really
you
put them a
disagree with
thing.
that, Joe?
Look, man, the bottom line is I like all these movies. You know,
It's so hard
it's
to
hard for me
rank.
to rank any of these. I like them equal. It's like your kids or something. So
You
I'm
always
cool
have
with
a
either
favorite
way,
kid.
man. I'm
Okay,
just
cool.
saying.
So we'll do that. So we'll have it there. So all right. So you guys. So we have. All right. So we have collectively come up with our top 5.
Number 5. Number 5 is The Hangover.
Yeet, yeet. Number 4.
Hot Fuzz. Number 3. Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Fantastic.
Number 2, Step Brothers.
Gross.
And number 1,
Bridesmaids.
fantastic.
All right. And so, like I said at the top of the show, we do have our other lists, like I said, that we normally have done within certain rankings. What do you, if you had to guess the 5 movies we just named, and then the 5 movies I have here on this list, how many of those movies are on this list?
Because of the popularity of the ones we picked, given the widespread, how well they did in the box office and all that, I want to say at least we're 3 for 5.
I think, I was going to say 3 for 5.
You guys are right. There's 3 for
Hell
5.
yeah, dog.
Woo!
I don't think we will ever get 5 for 5 because someone would have to guess that did we get it wrong correctly,
All
right?
right.
Between
Yeah.
the white spread. So let's start off first. So did we get this wrong? I was looking through a field of goddamn R-rated comedies who had kind of like the biggest spread. And so basically what I was looking for is one group giving it rotten, which was the critics giving this an overall 47%, versus the audience, which gave it, a recommend, which is at 75. It was Eurotrip.
Ooh.
Oh.
I don't. I didn't really
Titties.
like it. Yeah.
The sequel to Road Trip, and people,
Wait,
critics didn't absolutely like this.
is this
I
with
mean,
Matt Damon?
Is this the Scotty
No.
didn't know? Or is that Road Trip? That's Road Trip.
So Eurotrip had
I
Michelle
definitely
Trachtenberg.
didn't like. Oh, you know what? It's when they made out with each other, the brother and sister.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was all
So
right.
so I guess the audience are more lenient towards it, right? When we look at box office champion, it is Hangover. It is still
Nice.
the best movie that's grossed the most at 275 million. That's crazy for an R-rated comedy.
That's what I'm
there.
saying, baby.
And that's back then money.
The Field of Excellence, it was Bridesmaids. It is,
Good move.
one of the comedies, R-rated comedies that got nominated on multiple acting platforms, especially here with the Golden Globes, Academy Award, Critics' Choice, Screen Actors Guild. It was actually amazing how much reverence this movie got. So deservedly so. Let's agree to 2. First one is Step Brothers.
Yes.
Okay.
Second one is Superbad.
Okay. Hey.
So
I'm
yeah,
4 for
so
5, baby.
So it's funny because I was looking through all this, and basically what I did was I asked 25 guys, 25 girls, to give me their top 3 R-rated movies. Some of these movies, I was shocked, showed up. A popular one that always came back was Pineapple Express.
I was thinking about that. The
I
weed movie.
love that movie. There's so many honorable mentions on our lists.
There's some newer ones like Good Boys. I don't know if you guys seen that movie. I think
that one's pretty good.
that movie is super bad for
Yeah.
this generation. Like you talked about earlier, Deadpool was on there.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Harlem Nights was on here too.
Huh.
Harlem Nights.
You remember how
Weird.
Bag in Life was also on here too.
Oh my god, what? Was Blockers on there? Blockers was really
No.
funny.
No one named Blockers.
Damn.
There's a shout out to Bad Boys 2. The second one.
You ain't
Blows
seen
my
Bad
mind.
Boys 2.
Shit.
Half Baked.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
History of the World Part 1. Someone nominated. Monty
Nah.
Python's The Meaning of Life.
I'm really surprised I didn't have a Monty Python in my list, but
It's a classic for sure.
Both 21 and 22 Jump Street.
21 Jump Street's very good.
22 was all right.
So there's a lot of these Horrible Bosses was also on here, which I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that movie. That's pretty good.
That. Yeah.
So, but I'll give you because some of these were kind of tabulated in the top 3 movies that got mentioned the most. Number 3 was Superbad.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 was Hangover.
Okay.
Very nice.
Number 1, and we collectively all agree, it is Bridesmaids.
Yeah.
This is hands down the one movie that everyone absolutely agreed on, that it is by far the best R-rated comedy that we've seen thus far in cinema as of right now. Time. As we wrap this up, you guys, Joe, where can the audience interact with us?
You could find us at both Twitter and Instagram. Our handles are Film Lovers GTTG, exactly how it sounds. We'll try to keep it updated as best we can. We're going to go ahead and put a little blurbs out on little movies we've been watching, movie recommendations, all sorts of things. I think you'll have a great time. Please check us out. Thanks.
What was our last post that we did, Joe?
We did these 1 minute blurbs of movies that we thought that are good suggestions. So we'll give you a little synopsis on the movie, how we graded the movie, and for us, it's Promising Young Woman. Please watch that. Great movie.
All right, Jared, where can they find you?
They can find me at my Twitter handle is jluthy, JLUTHY. I also have a blurb coming up about recommending Minari. Also, you can find me on Twitch at Fantasy Date Night, where I done in the DM for my brother and friends Dungeons and Dragons game. That's about it.
All right, you guys, you can find me a couple different places. If you guys like pop culture tournaments, right now we're doing one hit wonders at the Mortal Kombat. It's at Mortal Kombat Pod. If you like talking about basketball, listening about basketball, me and my friend John, we have one. It's Couchin Courtside, Couchin COUCHIN Courtside. That you can find us here. We're all on Apple, Twitter, or Apple, Spotify, all that. If you want to find me, I'm at JNO11, JNGO11. Again, thanks you guys for listening. We greatly appreciate it. Any feedback you have, hit us up on any of our Twitter handles. We can always take suggestions down as well. We'll leave you at that with next week. I have a feeling that I gotta have to talk so much about my love for Man of Steel, and as we also review Justice League as well. So we'll see you guys next time.
Movie sucks.